My name is Tamara, and I'm a cave diving instructor from Puerto Morelos, Mexico. I have been diving for almost 30 years. I learned to dive in 1995 on the beach in Puerto Morelos, and my mom simply asked my godfather, who had a little dive shop on the beach, to take me for the summer and teach me how to dive. So that's what I did. A little bit old style type of training, physical training, swimming laps, running in the morning, free diving to find your gear at the bottom and wearing it and doing all those skills that we don't do anymore, unfortunately. So yeah, I was born in a fishing village, so I was in contact with the water since I was a baby, and I probably learned to swim before I learned to walk. So the water is embedded in my blood. I dive mainly side mount. I also dive back mount, but it's not my most common configuration that I use, and it's also side mount is the configuration that I mostly teach for technical and cave diving. So at this point, I'm considering to only go the side mount way going forward, mainly because of back issues. But it is important for me to be knowledgeable in both configurations. It's important to me to know both configurations as an instructor, both to be able to help divers and to teach them, especially regarding procedures and safety in overhead environments. So that's why most of my initial training has been in back mount. I am also a rebreather diver. For a couple of years, I dived the Kiss Sidewinder, and I have been trained in full trimix in my rebreather. I have also done a little bit of cold water diving, which I am now super fan of. And I have been a scientific diver for many years, mainly because very soon after I became an instructor 10 years ago, I realized that underwater I want to be busy, I want to be conducting tasks, solving problems, and being active underwater rather than just hanging out and swimming around. So I did a scientific diving course with the National University of Mexico, and I have participated in a lot of different scientific diving projects, including in caves. That is probably the most favorite thing that I can do underwater, is to collect data, to take samples, to conduct assistance for researchers, that type of thing. I have also worked with photographers a lot, so I somehow became an underwater model without wanting to, but I learned a lot about modeling at the same time that I learned core skills for stability, and so that combines very well because you can work in very fragile and pristine environments for the photographers to stage their photos and then do a lot of work as a team. And learning about lighting has also been something super interesting in my career, so those are more or less the things that I do in my free time. Participate in projects, travel a little bit, and do photography. I would dive anywhere. There is no environment in the world that I would say no to diving in. I have been diving in Mexico, in Belize, in the Maldives, in the Marshall Islands, in Alaska, in Poland, in Belgium, in Sardinia. I have dived ship hulls for inspections. I have dived bomb craters for sampling. I have dived the deep areas of Hansha Lake in Poland for training. I have dived cenotes. I have dived caves in Southeast Alaska for research with the sunfish robot. So for me, diving is just part of my life, and I feel very grateful to be able to join the projects that shed some light on the environments, on the people that work there, on the creatures that live there. So where I like to dive, wherever there's water. I would jump in any pond of water and go and check it out, and it's just, for me, it's just fantastic to be able to see what's beneath the surface. So I have a long bucket list, especially now that I have been in training for almost 4 years and I've dedicated most of my time to my training. I'm coming to the end and I feel very enthusiastic to be able to go to other places to find just new frontiers, new types of water, new types of critters, new types of fossils. So yeah, I guess that I don't have a favorite place to dive either, because I'm just happy when I'm underwater. I think that there are dives that really mark my career, or there are dives that really leave a trace of things that I continue to think many years later. And some of those dives, although you could think that I conduct them now when I'm very experienced, but some of those dives were happening when I was very, very new. So the dives that I did for Columbia University in the Marshall Islands, those were fundamental for my career, because that was the start of me participating in underwater projects. And it was a very special mission to Bikini Atoll and the Bravo Crater. So I was diving quite deep. I was diving kind of old school, deep diving on air, and I was isolated from the world, no internet for 3 weeks, and just in the middle of the ocean. And there was a lot of organization to do with the team and with the project as to how we were going to do those dives. And it was very challenging just to organize how can we get 100 samples of the bottom of the Bravo Crater with a team that was initially about 8 people, and then little by little got reduced to about 4 people, who were 3 women and 1 man, so that was also very exciting. And just to see the project being completed was amazing. During that trip, I also saw my first tiger shark, which was something memorable. It was also juvenile, so a pretty special moment in my life. And I have been lucky to be in some really cool places. That would be one. The other one would be the seals in Alaska. So just meeting unexpectedly the seals underwater and then developing a sort of trust over the couple days we were there was incredible, because the animals started coming closer and closer and closer. And on the last day, they were hugging the camera and they had their faces just super close. So that was, that cheers me up. It was super special. Yes, I mean, I think everybody has those moments. The more experience you have, the more comfortable you become, and the more your comfort zone expands. So I think those moments are more prone to happen now than when I was new and inexperienced and I was overly aware. So I'm very, very conscious of that. Obviously, diving a rebreather is quite complex, so I try to always do it safely and to be strict about the parameters and all of this. I am also very, I would say, lucky, but it's not luck. I'm serious enough that I don't have a lot of those moments that have put my life at risk. But I have, like every human being, sometimes made a mistake and forgot, or I was very stressed about something and forgot to switch my computer from air to nitrox or vice versa. And I have had decompression accidents as well. I have been diving with people that I did not consider safe. So all of those things, and through my career, because I'm in touch with a lot of divers, constantly changing the teams, changing the diver, changing, it just exposes me to like a volume of opportunities to make mistakes, I think that in every dive, we should be able to reflect about it and learn something. There is no dive where there's nothing to be noted. But as an instructor, I also have to evaluate myself, not only on the diving itself, but the teaching. What am I able to teach the other person, and how was I able to transmit that? So for me, the hardest things or the hardest mistakes that I have made have been not being able to train someone, not being able to teach them what I wanted to teach them, not having the calm or the maturity to get a message across in the way that they need it. And this is something that I constantly judge myself for and scrutinize myself for. I don't think that I am like a reckless diver that goes and does ridiculously crazy things. So in that sense, I think I have created a safe space and environment to dive in. But when I train others, this is where I evaluate myself more harshly, I would say. So I have a log of students, and I write after the course things about how I was able to train them, and that's where I discover the biggest mistakes that I've made. It's very self-reflective. It's not really easy to say and point out, just like, oh, I forgot to turn on my O2. Like, those things happen less often than myself, let's say, self-reflecting, inspecting, and say, I really should have done better there. Well, I think we are a lot of humans on the planet, and I think that we are not aware of the value of freshwater and the freshwater reserves in the world. So I think that if you have not lived in a place where water access is affected, you are likely to not know that there is a water problem in the world. Because we dive and because we see the places being built on or being, losing the access or being contaminated, we have a direct feedback almost every day that this is happening. And obviously the governments and the policymakers and the conservation agents and everybody is trying to fulfill their own needs, but I think that as a community we should really pay more attention to fresh water, and diving in the cenotes in Mexico is one of the biggest gifts that we have. Is we have direct access to this water. It's not the case everywhere in the world. It's not the case with clean water everywhere in the world. So as divers, I think we have to think of that more often and take action and be mindful, and then also try to adapt our habits so that we can preserve them. I think conservation of the water is one of the biggest issues that the environments we dive in are facing. Well, I guess as divers, we share a huge community, and we are also brought up in specific environments or specific groups. For me, it has been incredibly rewarding to actually step outside of my own bubble and to share with divers from other places in different contexts, and it has been just very eye-opening to share and to have contact with people from other circles than the ones that I'm used to here in Mexico. So I would recommend to everybody that you reach out to other people, share experiences, keep an open mind, and know that what you know applies for the case and the context where you live, but there are thousands of techniques out there. There's hundreds of ways of doing things differently that are not right or wrong. So learn about every single diver that comes through in front of you, and then as a community we will do better, because sometimes we tend to be very opinionated and just very focused on the one way that we like, and we ignore the rest or we judge the rest because we haven't been there. And always having dived dived in warm water, I was very firm about a lot of things that I believed in, and when I went to cold water, I understood so much about how other people dive and how my students come from Canada or from Europe and they dive in a certain way, and I understood why they do it like that, and then I had to adapt my own diving. So for me, that's the biggest advice that I give is like, if you increase your ability to adapt to situations, then you are going to survive more. It's just like evolution. If you stick to just the one way of doing it, it's not going to work 100% of the times. So that's what I would say to everybody listening and watching today. I'm going to start working as an independent cave instructor, and it's a very exciting time in my life, in my career, because I get to shape my business the way that I believe is the best. And learning from so many people in the last years, I get to collect experiences, and I also get to challenge myself, and now I'm going to be responsible for things that I haven't really done before, and I'm going to have to make a lot of big decisions. And so these exciting times obviously come with a lot of work. And my heart is full with all the support and all of the love that I receive from the people, my students, the divers, the friends, and the other instructors. So I hope that I get to share this with a lot of you. Starting my own business is something important at this stage for me, but it's not the first time that I do it. So I'm having a little bit of flashbacks from 2014, so 10 years ago, when I became an instructor and I decided to start teaching. And I had a little marine biology and diving school with a partner of mine. So now I'm 100% on my own, and it just feels very different. It's a new project, and like all projects, we don't know how much time they're going to last or how long they're going to live, but the important thing is you pour your heart into it, and then good things come out of hard work. So that's what I want to do going forward. You can find me on social media, Cenote Girl, or my website is cenotegirl.com, and you're going to find training information, contact information, and I usually like to share some things about my diving life and instructor life on Facebook as well. So get in touch, and I'm always available for consultations or advice or tips if anybody needs them. So reach out, and I will sooner or later reply.